I'm going to let you in on what happened to part 2 of the real life Ruthless at the end of this video. So stay tuned and I'll let you know what happened. Welcome back to another episode of Ruthless TV, where I break down Tyler Perry's hit cable series Ruthless scene by scene. Now let's get into this video. Today I want to talk about the commitment that Elder Mother has for the highest. She's so committed to him and obsessed with him that she would even kill little children on his behalf. Now, if we go back to season 1, we do know that she was geared up and ready to go, had the kids all lined up, ready to give them the poison applesauce, right? So this lets us know right away how committed she is to him. Now, I can't continue this video without referencing Jim Jones when he and his followers committed mass suicide. Now, he actually gave his followers a choice. He told them that if the government were to ever come, that they could either run through the woods and try to escape, or they could, 2, fight them off and try to overtake them, or they could commit a mass suicide. And again, from these reports and eyewitnesses, they said that they would rather commit suicide. And I want to just take a quick moment to go back to see how these people all came to begin to follow such a leader, right? And if we look at Elder Mother, I think that she said that she was working in an accounting office or as a secretary or something, and then she heard the highest speak, and then she was like hooked, right? And then she began following him after that. And then it's pretty much the same story with the Jim Jones followers. A lot of them were African American people. And we all know that Jim Jones did not see race at all. And he made them feel welcomed when they came to his church. And we have to bear in mind that at the time that they were attending his church, that there was a lot of racism and racial divide. So Jim Jones would welcome them into his church. They felt comfortable. They felt welcome. And, you know, it didn't start out as a cult. It was a church in the beginning, right? So they were following him as their leader, and he led them to believe that they were going to go off to this land and build a whole new world, right? Where they can be in charge. They don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to succumb to any type of capital punishment. They would basically make up their own rules and live in their own city. And of course, we find out that the city is called Jonestown. That was in Guyana, Africa. So he had to be very convincing, very charismatic, and very calculated to get these people. I mean, these were, hardworking citizens. They weren't, people that didn't have a bit of sense in their head. They were all, a certain class of people, and they followed him because they thought that they were going to a place where they could raise their children, they could grow their own food, and that they could be led through Christian teachings. But of course, when they got there, of course, they find that the land had to be cultivated. It had to be, built. They had to actually carve out the jungle in order to build their houses and build the land and all of this stuff. But of course, they had a lot of help. They had a lot of skilled people in the following who could actually build houses and build gazebos and just really make the land their own. And I think I posted this in the last video where they had this big, huge sign out front when people would come to visit. Well, nobody actually came to visit, but I guess it was just there for them to see that that was their own agricultural project, right? And carving out living space really took some doing, because I think from one of the videos that I saw, one of the documentaries, that to get to civilization, it was about 300 miles from the compound, right? 300 miles. That is like so long. This is why I always, again, kid the 3 blind mice about escaping, because you would have to go at least 300 miles, and, because it's television, they're, exaggerating some of the things like, Lilo driving up in a car, and, you were not driving up in a car, not at Jonestown at all, right? So, there are some differences, but there are a lot of similarities too. But I think that for television, of course, we have to, kind of connect the dots and be reasonable on some aspects of the truth. So as I stated before, Elder Mother was geared up and ready to give the children their applesauce. And this is just like it happened at Jonestown, where the adults would, feed the children the applesauce, the children and the babies, and then they would, pass away first, and then the adults would take the poison next after them. And it's like I said before in a previous video that Jim Jones had this poison flown in, weeks and months ahead of time before some of the followers even arrived. So this poison was there on the compound the entire time. And initially when they got there, they had already had, some followers went ahead of others. So they did have some food, but that food soon ran out. And it was noted in one documentary that they even had to just eat rice. They had all these vegetables and foods, but then, once the foods ran out, they would eat rice every day, 3 times a day. Just sad. And then on this dreadful day, we also saw some of the family members had come to the compound to visit their friends and family. And then when they got ready to leave, the mother was screaming for them not to take her kid because they wanted to take the kid with them, but she was screaming for them not to. And Tyler Perry captured this moment. Once again, it was dead on the head, because if we go back to Ruthless, we see Ruth, Nancy, and Callie, and where Ruth was trying to pull Callie away to take her away with her to the compound. So again, this is yet another similarity. And right before the mass suicide, there was, I think it was Jim Jones' wife, where he asked her if there was a way that they could make the Kool-Aid taste less bitter. And she said no. So they had to ingest the poison Kool-Aid just as it was. And this is why Ruth and Tally were so excited with fear, because they knew that this is what they had been practicing. And the practice tests and the test runs were called White Nights. And it's where Jim Jones would call everyone together, and then he would tell them to ingest the poison, but it was actually Kool-Aid, not laced. It was just regular Kool-Aid in the cups, and it was just like a test. And this was a test of their loyalty. He wanted to see who was going to drink the Kool-Aid and who was not going to drink the Kool-Aid. And this is how he determined who was faithful and who was not faithful. So I just wanted to make this video so that you guys would see the severity of the situation in this TV show that we love to look at each week. And when the show resumes in November, hopefully these videos here on the channel will give us a little bit more insight on, what actually happened and the real life characters of the show. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and let you guys know what happened to part 2 of the Real Life Ruthless special that I was working on. And once I completed it, and this was like a couple of weeks ago, it was about 40 minutes long, and it basically highlighted all of the comparisons of Jim Jones to the Ruthless TV show. So once I got ready to save everything and package it all up for YouTube, I kept getting these error messages, that my disk was full. So I started to delete things and, move things around and put things on the backup drive, all the things. So once I got finished, I went to look for the file, and it was gone. It was gone. It was deleted from my computer. It wasn't in the trash bin. It was completely gone. So we tried to retrieve it, and we downloaded this software, and we thought we had it because it did come back up, but it was only the shell of the video. There was no content. And I just sat there and I pressed that button like for 2 days, and nothing ever came up. So I was unable to retrieve part 2. So what I'm going to do is basically just pepper in the comparisons, throughout the videos that I will be airing from here until November. So if you're still here, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Ruthless TV. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe so that you won't miss any other videos on Tyler Perry's Ruthless. Thank you so much once again, and I'll see you on the next one.